Greetings, my friends. My name is Manorstone, and this is the first in a short series of videos in which I use the game Transport Fever 2 to recreate the Metropolitan Railway north of Aylesbury in the year 1900. This is a one-to-one recreation of the railway based on the Ordnance Survey map published in 1900. This wonderful map, at a scale of 25 inches to the mile, is available free online thanks to the National Library of Scotland. It shows every feature of the railways, every road, every building and every field boundary. 120 years later, the overlay of satellite images shows that very little has changed in the countryside. But Aylesbury is much bigger now. We begin at Aylesbury Station, originally the southern terminus of the Aylesbury and Buckingham Railway. Our train that's just pulled in is pulled by an E-class locomotive, an 044 tank engine that was the workhorse of the Met at this time. And the carriages comprised one first class and half a dozen third class coaches, finished in the characteristic teak look of the time. So let's go into the cab and we can begin our journey. The Metropolitan Railway acquired the Aylesbury and Buckingham Railway in 1891, and it completed the extension of its line from its HQ at Baker Street Station in London in 1894. Why on earth would the Met, a London-based commuter railway, want to run trains 44 miles out into what was then a pretty rural and somewhat isolated part of England? The answer is that the directors of this privately owned business had great ambitions to turn it into a national railway and to boost not only its passenger traffic but crucially goods transport. At this time the Great Central Railway was on the point of completing its new main line, running south from Nottingham, joining the Met a few miles north of here at Quainton Road station, and the plan was for the two railways to work together building this new network. Also, at the end of 1899, the Met took over a rather strange little branch line, the Brill Tramway. Built in 1870 as the private line of the Duke of Buckingham, it ran for 6 miles, connected the farms and industries on his estates to the Aylesbury and Buckingham line station at Quainton Road. But there had been plans to extend to Oxford, and this was what tempted the Met. We shall ride the Brill Tramway and talk more about its quite fascinating history in a later video. Today, all the fields that you see on either side are part of modern Aylesbury, which has extended a long way out in this direction. The site that's coming up on the right was the Aylesbury Sewage Works, which of course in those days was situated a nice healthy distance away from the town. Today the modern day Chiltern Line trains run along this section of track, but they terminate at a station that was built in 2008, not very far from here. I'll show you when we get there, called Aylesbury Parkway. And this is used purely for commuters who want to park their cars up all day and go down into London. We are moving through the Vale of Buckingham. It's a very productive, flat area, watered by the River Tame, which has many branches, and we'll be crossing and recrossing the branches of the Tame all the way up to Quainton Road. And we're now approaching the bridge that goes over the road from Aylesbury to Bicester, the main road in this part of the world. It's now the modern day A41, and right here on the right is the site of Aylesbury Parkway Station, which is the current terminus of the Chiltern Line. Beyond this today, it's just a single track line up to Quainton Road that is hardly ever used. Beyond it, all the lines have been taken up, and HS2 is going to come this way at some point. To our left, the isolated church and hamlet of Fleet Marston, comprising not much more than a couple of houses. A few people on the left there out on a stroll. And it looks like there is a train just ahead of us. We are actually slowing down at a stop signal. That should clear quite quickly. Yes, it's cleared. We'll continue on to the next station, which is Waddesdon Manor. This was not built by the Aylesbury and Buckingham originally. It was actually built by the Metropolitan Railway in 1894. And it was built because the owner of Waddesdon Manor, Ferdinand de Rothschild, probably the richest man in Britain, wanted a station close to his palatial home, and in return he was offering guarantees for the proposal to build the line out to Oxford along the Brill Tramway, which I alluded to earlier. Well, that line was never built, but Waddesdon Manor Station was built. It's not a very convenient station though. It's situated about 1.5 miles from the town of Waddesdon. However, that was the route that the Aylesbury and Buckingham line had already taken. This part of the Vale of Buckingham is really quite empty of settlements, and the Ordnance Survey map shows almost nothing at all apart from the field boundaries. I've used my imagination to decide what was going on in those fields, so I've made them a mixture of pastures and arable, and some are just left to grass for the growing of hay. To the extreme left, you can just see church and the buildings of the village of Waddesdon, and behind that is the hill on which Waddesdon Manor was built. A fantastic house, currently owned by the National Trust, well worth visiting. Donated to the National Trust, I think, in the 1940s by the Rothschild family. And over to the right you can see the hill of Quainton, below which is the modern day village of Quainton, near to which is Quainton Road Station. But we're just coming into Waddesdon Manor, and like all stations of its era, it has a large goods yard for coal, for general goods, and for storing animals in transit. And there's a few cows there waiting to be shipped further down the line. And the reason we were held up just before, you can see, is there's a goods train ahead of us that's just pulled into the siding. Today there's no trace of Waddesdon Manor apart from the banks where the platforms used to be. A whole section of the line was closed shortly after the Second World War. You can now more clearly see the village of Quainton, which sits just underneath its hill. Again, the station at Quainton Road was not particularly convenient for Quainton. It's at least half a mile up the hill to get there. but they chose, I think, the flattest and easiest route. At this time, Quainton Road would have been very busy with the extension of the Great Central, which was just about to be completed. They were putting in the final few hundred metres of track to link up to the Met's lines, and we won't see that on this video, we'll see it on a future one. Because we are going to end this journey here at Quainton Road. Assuming that we have a clear run in, it looks like there's nothing occupying our platform. Here we have a green. I can never quite tell with transport fever which trains. I've got quite a few trains running on these tracks. There's another passenger train on its way south. Extensive sidings here with a large goods yard and animal pen and all the usual paraphernalia of a country station. And to our left we can see the single track line that's going on its way to Brill. Well, that concludes today's journey. We're going to stop here at Quainton Road. I do hope you'll join me for the next one, when we will continue northward and end our journey at Verney Junction, a station almost literally in the middle of nowhere. So thank you very much and goodbye.